You don't want to start with a story. You start with pressure. Most people think writing a screenplay starts with an idea, a concept, a twist, a setting. But ideas don't actually move anything because your brain doesn't engage with ideas. It engages with change. And change only happens when something is at risk. That's why most scripts stall. There's nothing forcing the situation to evolve, nothing creating urgency. Look at Rocky. It's not about boxing. It's about a man who gets one shot he doesn't deserve. That's pressure. Or The Social Network, not Facebook. A genius builds something massive while losing everything personal. That tension is what pulls you in, because the brain is constantly asking one question: what happens if this continues? And if the answer is nothing changes, it stops paying attention. But if something is introduced that can't stay the same, that's engaging, because now it has to track the outcome. That's what a real story is. Not an idea, but a situation where something has to change, and your brain can't ignore the outcome. When you pick a genre, you're telling the audience how to feel. Genre isn't about style, it's about expectations. Because your brain is always trying to predict what's coming next. Genre tells it how to predict. Horror makes it anticipate danger. Comedy makes it anticipate surprise. Drama makes it anticipate consequence. That's why Get Out builds tension the way it does, and why The Hangover escalates chaos. Your brain adjusts to how it watches based on genre. It starts focusing on different details, expecting different outcomes. So when the story breaks the pattern, it doesn't feel creative, it feels wrong. That's why genre matters. It's not a label, it's a contract with the audience expectations. A story isn't what happens, it's who it happens to. Because your brain doesn't attach to events, it attaches to people. More specifically, it tracks change in identity. That's what makes something feel like a story instead of a sequence. In Iron Man, Tony Stark changes. In Whiplash, ambition turns destructive. That shift is what your brain is following. Not just what happens, but what it does to someone. If your character doesn't evolve, the brain has nothing to update. And when there's nothing to update, attention fades. A real screenplay tracks one thing: not what happens, but who someone is and who they can't stay. Bad scripts don't fail because of bad ideas. They fail because nothing changes at the right time. Structure isn't formula, it's timing. Because your brain is constantly predicting what should happen next. And when that shift doesn't come, or comes too late, it loses interest. Stories work because they introduce change. At moments they feel necessary. Beginning, something disrupts stability. Middle, pressure increases. End, something irreversible happens. Look at The Dark Knight. The stakes keep rising. Each shift forces your brain to reassess the situation. That's structure, not rules, but controlled escalation over time. Your story doesn't need more ideas, it needs the right moments. Frameworks like Save the Cat work because they align with how your brain recognizes patterns. The brain is constantly looking for structure, for key turning points. That's why certain moments feel necessary. The beginning, what normal looks like. Disruption, what breaks it. The midpoint, when everything shifts. The low point, when it collapses. The ending, when it resolves. In Spider-Man, Uncle Ben's death locks the story into place. Without those moments, the brain can't organize what it's seeing. And when it can't organize it, it stops trying. That's why stories without structure don't feel deep, they feel unclear. If nothing is in the way, nothing is happening, because your brain doesn't stay engaged with progress. It stays engaged with uncertainty under resistance. Every scene comes down to one thing. Someone wants something, and something is stopping them. That tension is what holds attention. In Wolf of Wall Street, there's constant resistance. In The Marriage Story, it's emotional. Different forms, same function. Conflict forces the brain to ask, what does this resolve? Without that question, there's no reason to keep watching. Good dialogue isn't just what people say, it's what they're trying not to say. Because your brain doesn't just process words, it automatically looks for intention underneath them. Tone, timing, avoidance, that's subtext. In Pulp Fiction, conversations aren't direct. In The Social Network, every line has another meaning underneath. Your brain is constantly decoding that layer. That's what makes dialogue feel real. If characters say exactly what they mean, there's nothing to interpret. And when there's nothing to interpret, engagement drops. Because part of what keeps attention is figuring out what actually is being said. The first draft is what makes your screenplay exist. The rewrite is what makes it make sense. Because your brain is constantly building a model of the story as it watches. It connects actions, motives, outcomes, trying to see if everything fits. And when something doesn't align, it feels it instantly. Not as a clear thought, but as something being off. And that's what rewriting fixes. It removes contradictions, sharpens cause and effect, aligns everything into one consistent pattern. So the story doesn't just happen, it clicks. A good ending isn't surprising, it's inevitable. because your brain is tracking tension the entire time. Every setup creates a question, every conflict builds pressure, and the ending is where that pressure resolves. That's why the best ending feels earned. The character faces the same core problem, and now they're different, so the outcome changes. If the ending doesn't connect back, the brain doesn't register closure, and without closure, the story feels incomplete. A good ending doesn't just resolve the story, it confirms what the story was really about.